gonna be a knee banded wall sit. What you want is to make a 90-degree angle with your knees, and you're just gonna go ahead and tilt your pelvis this way. So pressing your lower back into the wall, and we're gonna go anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. And we're working on double leg exercises this time around, with the idea that we're gonna strengthen some of our stabilizers so that doing single leg exercises don't irritate our back. So the reason for the bands, now what you can do depending on your level is start off with one band only. The band above the knee is gonna be easier than a band below the knee. So the bands force you to drive your knees out against the band. So your knees should not be collapsing. We're actively driving our knees out against the band, kind of forcing that glute medius to turn on. That glute medius tends to be weak since we're sitting all day long. We want to force that glute medius to activate, keeping your ears aligned over your shoulders and your pelvis. Good. Go ahead, press pause. What you can do is 2 to 3 sets of these. If you want to make it a little bit harder, you can go ahead and grab your dumbbells for your second or your third set, and you're just gonna increase the resistance by adding a weight. Press pause, do 2 or 3 sets. Okay, so this one's gonna be a deficit rear lunge without weight, because the idea is we're gonna slowly strengthen our stabilizers so that doing some of the lunges with weights, the lateral lunges, the walking lunges, are not gonna aggravate your back once your stabilizers have been strengthened a little. So you're gonna start off on a low bench or even a step. These you can purchase from Amazon. It's a half step. And what we're gonna do is just doing one leg at a time. You're just gonna lunge back, lightly tap your knee on the ground. And to turn on your balance, I want you to bring that back leg all the way up to a single leg crunch. And go back down, keeping the weight in that top foot evenly spread throughout the foot, keeping your ears stacked over your shoulders. And what we're gonna do is just a slight bend in your torso right here to activate that glute. So I want you to do 10 to 15 of these on each side. And the pace should be pretty slow. So you're gonna come down, pause, come up, pause. And then this is what it looks like on the other side. So come down, slight bend in the torso. You're driving up. Come down, pause, slight bend in the torso, driving up. So your pace should be pretty slow. We're working on our balance, and we're forcing some of our stabilizers to kick on. Think about always drawing that lowest rib down towards the pelvis, just to keep your core activated all the time. So 10 to 15 on each side, 2 to 3 sets. When it feels way too easy, like you could crank out 25 to 30 reps, then go ahead and add maybe like some 5-pound dumbbells. Press pause. So this one is gonna be a feet elevated, just slightly elevated, double leg glute bridge. So go ahead, grab your resistance bands. What you can do is start with just one, either above or below the knee, or if you want more resistance, you're gonna do a band above the knee as well as below the knee. We're gonna grab our dumbbells and just gonna place your feet sort of hip width apart, and the weight, place it comfortably anywhere on your pelvis. It might be more comfortable like this, or I like to hold it like this. Your knees should be actively driving out against the band, and you're just gonna bridge up right here. So let's get down a little more. So you're gonna squeeze at the top. Go ahead and play around with that foot placement. The further your heels are from your body, the more you're gonna activate your hamstrings. The closer your heels are towards your body, the more you're gonna feel it in your quads. What you're doing here is using your glutes to squeeze up, pelvis towards the ceiling. I want a slower pace. So squeeze up, squeeze, pause at the top, and then gently tap down. Now, your pelvis should be tilted this way. That means your lowest rib is always drawing down towards your hips. Your core is always activated. So we're gonna squeeze up. We're gonna do about 10 to 15 of these, keeping your core activated. So when you bring your hips down, your lower back should also touch the floor. Don't let those knees cave. Knees are driving actively out. 10 to 15 on each side. You should feel a nice burn in your glutes and throughout your entire leg. Okay, go ahead and press pause. Do 2 to 3 sets of this. When you feel like this is too easy, what you can do is a single leg glute bridge. It's gonna look like this. And then just see if that aggravates your back or not. Once you master this, then we're gonna go ahead and add some weight onto that. But just start off with single leg, no weight at first, and see how that goes. So it looks like this. You're gonna squeeze at the top. You can tap on that to kind of wake it up. And this is how it looks on the other side. So really squeezing and pausing at the top, keeping that lowest rib drawn down towards your pelvis, keeping the core activated at all times. Women tend to have a hard time activating their core during exercises. A lot of it's related to childbirth or whatever. Okay, go ahead and press pause. Start off with your knee banded and double leg glute bridge first. Core moves now. The first one is gonna be a dead bug. Grab any ball, or if you don't have a ball, you can just place your hand directly on your knee. I'm gonna show you. So go ahead and you're gonna lay on your back. See what it feels like to tilt your pelvis this way. Press your lower back into the ground. We're gonna do opposite knee to opposite hand. The trick here is you're gonna always be actively pushing that knee this way and actively pushing your hand against it. That is gonna force your lower back to stay flush with the ground. And what we're gonna do here is, so the beginner version is this. This opposite leg is gonna start off here, and the beginner version is you're gonna keep that knee bent and just tap your toe down and then bring it back. What I want is for that lower back, even when your leg comes down, to stay flush with the floor. In order to do that, you're going to have to activate your core hard. You're going to have to actively press that lowest rib down towards the pelvis. So beginner version is gonna look like this. That moving leg constantly stays bent and your toe taps on the ground. Now, once you've mastered this, go ahead and extend fully that moving leg. When the leg is extended, you're gonna have to work even harder to keep that lower back pressed flush against the floor. So we're gonna do about 10 of these. The good thing about this is it forces your brain to work for that coordination. So I wanna pause here. Pause with that leg and arm extended. Do a check-in to make sure your back is flush with the ground. And then, so 10 on each side. This is what the other side looks like. So beginner version would be here, where your toe is just tapping down. The entire time, your lowest rib is drawing towards your pelvis. You're actively pushing your lower back into the ground. Okay, so beginner is here. You should feel burn in your abs and your core. If you need to rest between sides, it's totally normal. And then once we advance, it's gonna look like this. Lower back actively presses into the ground. Your lower back's gonna wanna lift off the ground when your leg comes up like this. It has to stay flush. That's where the core is working. And if you wanna try with an extended leg and you can only do 6 to 8, that's fine. Just pay attention to your body. Go ahead and adjust accordingly. A good way is to take a video selfie. You can send it to me for a form audit, or you can audit it and view it yourself. So 10 on each side, 2 to 3 sets. Good, go ahead, press pause. It's gonna be a plank with shoulder taps. What you wanna do is try to minimize your hips rocking every time you're having to lift up your hand. So you're gonna get into the plank position like this. Kind of take a wider stance with your feet to create a strong base. Pull that lowest rib down towards your pelvis, activating your core. Now squeeze your glutes kind of lightly, and what you're gonna do is tap opposite hand to opposite shoulder. Now this is what's gonna happen in the beginning. You're gonna be doing this to kind of compensate. Once your core strengthens, you should be able to brace strongly enough where your hips are not moving at all. And I want you to aim for this even in the beginning. Even if you can only do, say 8, and you have to make your feet really wide. Just get your body used to activating that core, okay? If you have sore wrists, what you can try to do is put a towel underneath where your palm sits so that you don't have as much wrist extension, or put a padding on the ground and go up on your knuckles like this. So it's just gonna look like this. So keeping your hips as level as possible. Just take note of how many you can do. Always thinking about drawing that lowest rib down towards your pelvis, keeping your hips as locked and stationary as possible. I want you to do 2 to 3 sets. And then you don't ever want to let your back hyperextend like this. So we're always drawing down, kind of a light squeeze in your glutes. All right, complete your set, press pause, and then do 2 to 3 sets. Good job.